Her face was just covered in blood. He hit her with something really hard. And then he called me on FaceTime, and he showed me that he choked her. I know in her mind, she probably was just wondering, like, what did I do? Like, what are you doing this to me for? Like, I love you. Like, why are you hurting me?
This is DeAndre Flanagan, a 25-year-old heartless father from Houston who would commit an unthinkable act of cruelty against his own 2-year-old daughter by choking her to death, all because he wanted to punish her mother. On the afternoon of March 20, 2023, DeAndre picked up his daughter, 2-year-old Zavia, from daycare, but instead of taking her home, he would take a dark and twisted turn. What seemed like a normal pickup quickly escalated into a nightmare. DeAndre didn't just take his daughter, he kidnapped her. But what he did next would shock the world. In a chilling move, DeAndre FaceTimed Zavia's mother, showing her the unimaginable horror unfolding in real time. He was beating and choking Zavia while being pursued by the police. As he taunted her, police were in hot pursuit, but nothing could have prepared them for what would happen next. The terror that unfolded left police in disbelief, and the heartbreaking tragedy that followed would forever change the lives of everyone involved. What drove DeAndre to such unimaginable lengths? The horrific truth would soon come to light. Before we get into the heart of this story, let's retrace the steps that led to such devastation.
But then he showed me the lifeless corpse of my granddaughter. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and to have to go through that type of anguish and pain.
28-year-old Kirsten Watson was a mother who worked diligently at Walmart to support her family. She was a loving mother to Zavia Flanagan, her 2-year-old daughter, who brought immense joy to her life. Zavia was everything to Kirsten, a sweet, beautiful child who had her entire future ahead of her. Kirsten's love for her daughter was undeniable, and she had dedicated herself to giving Zavia a better life. Despite the struggles that came with being a single mother, Kirsten worked tirelessly to provide for her child and build a future where Zavia would be safe and loved. Yet for Kirsten, life was a constant struggle. She worked long hours at Walmart, often juggling multiple shifts to ensure that she could give Zavia everything she needed: a warm home, clothes, food, and the love and attention that every child deserves. However, life with DeAndre Flanagan, Zavia's father, was anything but easy. DeAndre was controlling, manipulative, and as the relationship progressed, his behavior toward Kirsten and her daughter became increasingly volatile. His jealousy, insecurity, and emotional abuse would soon spiral completely out of control, leading to a devastating and unimaginable tragedy that would forever change their lives. What started as a promising relationship filled with hope and excitement for the future quickly turned into a nightmare for Kirsten. The man she had once loved began to show his true colors, and those colors were dark and dangerous. The small signs of his controlling nature that Kirsten initially overlooked became more intense and more frequent. It was a dynamic that no one, least of all Kirsten, could have foreseen. Kirsten met DeAndre Flanagan, and like many relationships, it began with love and hope. They started dating, and before long they were expecting their first child together. When Zavia was born, it was a joyous occasion for Kirsten and her family. Zavia, with her bright eyes and infectious laugh, quickly became the light of their lives. Her birth was a moment that should have been filled with happiness, but it would soon become the backdrop to a volatile and abusive relationship that would alter everything. DeAndre, who was supposed to be a loving father, began showing signs of jealousy and control. What began as minor outbursts grew into constant accusations and threats. His insecurities consumed him, and he became fixated on Kirsten's every move. He accused her of talking to other men, even if they were just friends or co-workers. His jealousy turned into manipulation, and Kirsten soon found herself in an unhealthy and emotionally draining cycle. She could no longer make a decision or go anywhere without him questioning her motives. It was as if she had no agency, no independence, no freedom to live her life without him watching her every step.
We've been going our separate ways. And I let him be, but he couldn't let me be. He couldn't let me be happy. He couldn't let me move on with my life.
DeAndre's jealousy turned into emotional punishment. Whenever he felt slighted or insecure, he would lash out. He would emotionally punish Kirsten, calling her names, insulting her, and making her feel worthless. But the most chilling part was his threats towards Zavia. He began to threaten to hurt their daughter if Kirsten didn't comply with his demands. These threats, though never carried out in full, were enough to leave Kirsten living in constant fear. There were multiple instances of violence between them, and the danger to Kirsten and Zavia was becoming more apparent with each passing day. One of the most terrifying incidents was when DeAndre took Zavia from Kirsten in the middle of a bath. He took her away from her mother without clothes and drove off with their daughter. Kirsten was frantic.
The first day he took my child, like I was giving her a bath in the tub. He stormed in and he took her like out the tub. She wasn't even dressed. And he just took her out the house and drove away in a car.
She tried to get help, calling the police multiple times, but she was repeatedly told there was nothing they could do.
I tried to reach out. I tried, but they didn't believe me. They thought I was making it up.
It seemed as though the law wasn't able to protect her or her daughter from the constant threat that DeAndre posed. Despite the numerous attempts to break free from DeAndre, Kirsten found herself trapped in a cycle of fear and manipulation. She tried reaching out to friends and family, trying to make a plan to escape, but DeAndre's presence loomed over her every move. Her desperation to get out grew with each passing day, but the fear of what might happen to her or Zavia kept her stuck in place. Kirsten's efforts to free herself and her daughter were in vain, as DeAndre's increasingly violent behavior reached a breaking point. His control over her tightened, and it became clear that Kirsten's life, as well as Zavia's, was in grave danger. No one could have anticipated how far DeAndre was willing to go to maintain that control. Tragically, this escalating tension would soon boil over into a tragedy that no one could have imagined. On March 20th, 2023, DeAndre picked Zavia up from daycare, and instead of taking her home, he drove to the Walmart where Kirsten worked. However, when he got there, a confrontation took place. DeAndre had come to accuse Kirsten of seeing another man, and an argument broke out. He demanded Kirsten's phone and passcode, threatening to harm their daughter if she didn't comply. Despite Kirsten's initial hesitation, she eventually gave in and provided him with the passcode. But DeAndre wasn't satisfied. He struck Kirsten several times, both physically and emotionally, before fleeing the scene with Zavia in tow.
Just wanted my phone. He's screaming at me, cursing me out, telling me, "What's the passcode? Tell me the passcode or she's gonna get it." And I'm telling him the passcode, and I'm telling him over and over and over, but at the end of the day, I guess it just wasn't enough.
What followed was a harrowing 45-minute chase through Houston, with police desperately trying to stop DeAndre's reckless pursuit. All the while, Kirsten remained on FaceTime with DeAndre, pleading with him to stop, to not hurt their daughter. DeAndre, however, had no mercy. Once he had the phone passcode, he began to hit and choke Zavia in the car while Kirsten helplessly watched.
Her face was just covered in blood. He hit her with something really hard. And then he called me on FaceTime, and he showed me that he choked her on FaceTime as I was on there. And I said, "Trey, that's your daughter. That is your daughter. Stop. That is your daughter. She loves you. I care about her. You care about her. Like, that is your daughter." And he told me, his exact words was, "You only love that man, so you did this to her."
The chilling details of what transpired are impossible to fathom. Zavia's small, innocent face was covered in blood as she endured unimaginable pain, all while her mother watched in horror from the other end of the call. As DeAndre Flanagan continued his reckless escape with his 2-year-old daughter Zavia in the car, a 45-minute police chase ensued across Houston. DeAndre's erratic driving put everyone at risk, but the situation grew even more dire as it became clear that Zavia was being physically harmed. Throughout the chase, Kirsten remained on FaceTime with DeAndre, witnessing her daughter's suffering in real time. The police were in hot pursuit, but they struggled to catch up as DeAndre weaved in and out of traffic, clearly unconcerned about the life of his child in the back seat. During this harrowing chase, Kirsten begged DeAndre to stop hurting their daughter. Her voice trembled with desperation as she pleaded with him, but DeAndre refused to listen. Instead, he continued to choke and strike Zavia while Kirsten watched helplessly. At one point, DeAndre showed Kirsten the extent of Zavia's injuries, taunting her as she saw her daughter's bloodied face on the screen. At that moment, Kirsten's worst nightmare was unfolding in front of her eyes. Her precious child was being abused by the very man who was supposed to protect her. After the chase, DeAndre's escape came to an end, but it was not the relief Kirsten had hoped for. What would happen next was even chilling. The chase finally came to a crashing halt when DeAndre's car collided with other vehicles and came to a stop in a field near St. Dunstan's Episcopal Church. What followed was a tense standoff between DeAndre and the authorities. Despite his daughter's dire condition, DeAndre showed no signs of remorse. He refused to leave the car and barricaded himself inside, using his daughter as leverage. As police surrounded the vehicle, a team of negotiators tried to make contact with DeAndre, attempting to peacefully resolve the situation. But DeAndre remained defiant, showing no concern for the life of his child.
It became clear to the officers that the situation was critical, and they feared for Zavia's life. As they worked to get DeAndre to surrender, bystanders nearby could only watch in horror, knowing that time was running out for the young child inside the car. After about 20 minutes of tense negotiations, DeAndre was forcefully taken out of the vehicle and taken into custody without incident. The authorities immediately rushed to retrieve Zavia from the vehicle, but it was already too late. She was quickly transferred to an ambulance and rushed to the hospital, but she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The cause of death was later confirmed to be asphyxiation, with evidence of strangulation and blunt force trauma. As the gravity of the situation set in, Kirsten's grief-stricken family was left to cope with the tragic loss of their beloved baby Zavia. How could a father do this to his own child? For Kirsten Watson, the pain of witnessing her daughter's final moments was unbearable. The image of Zavia's bloodied face, her small body being assaulted by the man who should have been her protector, haunted Kirsten and her family. Zavia's grandparents and aunt, too, were devastated. The family had tried for days to warn authorities about DeAndre's violent behavior, but their pleas had gone unanswered. On multiple occasions, Kirsten had contacted the police, reporting DeAndre's threats and actions toward their daughter. Yet when she needed help the most, the response came too late.
This is the heartbreaking story of Kirsten had worked hard to provide for her daughter and give her a better life. But the man who was supposed to help raise her child, Zavia's own father, had decided to selfishly murder her in cold blood. But Kirsten's case is not an isolated one. One commenter shared a painful but familiar experience. Just like the commenter, Kirsten tried everything to protect her daughter. She knew that her first responsibility was to her child. But in the case of Kirsten, like so many others, the system failed to protect her, and the violence that had been brewing for months took its final, devastating toll.
I didn't want to pull nothing until she actually passed, and I told them over and over and over that something was wrong. They could have at least tried to find him or check it out, but no.
The comment above highlights the painful reality many mothers face trying to protect their children from violence while fighting to escape toxic relationships. And for Kirsten, her attempt to escape her abuser was not enough. Her daughter had to pay the price with her life.
Kirsten's story, much like so many others, serves as a reminder of the struggles women face to protect their children from harm and the devastating consequences when they are left vulnerable to violence. The arrest of DeAndre Flanagan marked the beginning of a long legal battle. DeAndre Flanagan was charged with murder in the death of his daughter, 2-year-old Zavia Flanagan. His bond was initially set at $1 million, and prosecutors were clear about the severity of the charges against him. But as the investigation continued, it was revealed that DeAndre's actions might qualify for a capital murder charge, depending on the results of Zavia's autopsy.
5-year-old Houston area father could be facing capital murder charges. This depends on the autopsy of his 2-year-old daughter, Zavia, whom he is accused of killing during a SWAT situation on Monday. KPRC2's Rowan Balogan joins us live near the county jail where this man remains. Rowan.
Keith, the prosecutor tells me if a medical examiner's office determines that the 2-year-old little girl died due to strangulation, they then will raise the suspect's charge to capital murder.
The fact that he had deliberately strangled his own daughter and caused blunt force trauma to her body painted a chilling picture of premeditated violence. But Zavia wouldn't be DeAndre's first victim of assault. As details of his criminal history emerged, it became clear that DeAndre had a long track record of violent behavior. He had been involved in terroristic threats, criminal mischief, and had even assaulted his own brother who had special needs. This history of abuse and violence made it all the more disturbing that he had been allowed to be in contact with his daughter, despite repeated warnings from family members about his dangerous behavior. In January 2025, the long-awaited trial of DeAndre Flanagan finally began in Harris County, Texas. The jury selection process was intense, as this was no ordinary case. DeAndre was facing the most severe charges in the Texas Criminal Code, capital murder for the brutal killing of his own daughter, Zavia Flanagan. Prosecutors painted a horrific picture of the events. They described how DeAndre's rage culminated in the heart-wrenching murder of his daughter. According to evidence presented by the prosecution, DeAndre not only physically beat and strangled Zavia, but also streamed parts of the attack on FaceTime, showing her mother and grandfather the chilling and graphic moments as they helplessly watched.
Then he showed me the lifeless corpse of my granddaughter. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and to have to go through that type of anguish and pain.
The live stream was a disturbing display of the calculated cruelty he had inflicted on his daughter, while using technology to torment the very people who should have been able to protect her. In addition to the harrowing FaceTime footage, investigators presented police dashcam and bodycam footage, 911 calls, and testimonies from witnesses who were present or aware of the tense standoff that followed. These chilling materials provided an unmistakable portrayal of the horrifying events that led to Zavia's death. The prosecution highlighted the deliberate cruelty in DeAndre's actions, emphasizing that he used his own daughter as a pawn in his toxic relationship with Kirsten Watson, Zavia's mother. This made the crime even more egregious, as DeAndre's focus seemed solely on terrorizing Kirsten in the most malicious way imaginable. The defense, though acknowledging that DeAndre had killed his daughter, tried to argue that he should be held less responsible due to alleged emotional instability and mental health issues. They presented the argument of diminished responsibility, suggesting that his actions were not premeditated in the way the prosecution described, but rather a result of an emotional breakdown. His defense team implored the jury to consider a sentence of life imprisonment instead of the death penalty, citing his lack of prior violent convictions. However, the evidence was overwhelming. After hearing the closing arguments from both sides, the jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a guilty verdict on the charge of capital murder. The speed of their decision demonstrated just how clear-cut the case was and how little doubt remained about DeAndre's responsibility for the heinous crime. Under Texas law, capital murder carries two possible sentences: death or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. However, prosecutors chose not to pursue the death penalty. As a result, the judge officially sentenced DeAndre to life in prison without the possibility of parole, meaning he would spend the rest of his life behind bars for his horrific actions. But what DeAndre would do next would further prove how dangerous he was. Immediately following the sentencing, DeAndre displayed a violent outburst in the courtroom, which further underscored the dangerous nature of the man who had taken the life of his own child. As deputies led him away, DeAndre lunged at a CBS News camera, knocking it and a photojournalist to the ground in a fit of rage. He was quickly restrained, and the scene served as a grim reminder of the unrelenting anger that had driven the events of the past 2 years.
Here's the deal. Our photographer says Flanagan was coming from the court in leg shackles but no handcuffs when he went for his camera, knocking it to the side. You see what happened. Deputies quickly put Flanagan on the ground. Right now, we're waiting to find out if he'll face additional charges.
The volatile outburst was just another chapter in the tragedy that had unfolded, marking the end of the legal proceedings, but not the end of the pain for Zavia's family. The emotional weight of the conviction settled over Kirsten's family, though it did little to ease their pain. For Kirsten, the legal battle was never about revenge. It was about ensuring that her daughter's life was not forgotten and that DeAndre was held accountable for his brutal actions. While the legal battle had come to a close, Kirsten's fight was far from over. Her loss had ignited a new passion, one that would carry on in Zavia's memory. Zavia's story has inspired countless people to stand up against domestic violence and to fight for justice. Her memory is honored not only by her family, but by the many lives she touched, both directly and indirectly. And for Kirsten, her daughter's legacy will forever be a reminder of the importance of love, strength, and the fight for what is right. As we conclude this heart-wrenching story, we must ask ourselves, how can we do more to protect women and children from the horrors of domestic violence? If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please seek help immediately. No one should have to endure violence, and there are resources available to help. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.